Welcome to From the Ashes, the Dungeon Crawler Network podcast all about Ashes of Creation by Intrepid Studios. Bear witness to the rebirth of the MMORPG genre from the ashes of an industry that has left the gamers behind. I'm Aggelos, and I am here with the one, the only Stormzlord himself, my co-GM over at Hands of Fate. How are you, sir?
Oh, doing good. How about yourself?
Doing all right. Just working on the guild website we talked about earlier, and starting to come along. Sort of, if I can figure.
Looking good.
Yeah, I am not an artist by any stretch of the imagination, and trying to get it to look aesthetically, appeasing, while having no real taste whatsoever is really difficult. So
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm very technical. I'm fine with the technical side. When it starts getting into the more artsy and creative side, there's a steep drop off, but. Yeah, we're here. And this week we decided we're going to do something a little different. Instead of a theory crafting type episode like we normally do, this is, I guess you could argue it's kind of theory craft, but this is not going to be a theory craft episode. This is going to be a wish list episode. And I will be really curious to see what some other people have on their wish list as well, so I'd like to see that in the comments and any kind of emails and whatnot that you would send to us. That'd be really cool as well. This is going to be our wish list for guild tools within Ashes of Creation, hence why I brought my co-GM Stormzlord onto the show, so we can talk about, our guild Hands of Fate, what we're trying to accomplish, and what we'd like to see Ashes do to facilitate our growth and what we want to do in game and how we can manage our members and whatnot. So I guess first off, we can say, what is, our guild? Our guild is our Ashes of Creation chapter of the Dungeon Crawler Network, right? That's our podcast network. That's what we've been doing for about 5 years now, and several hundred members into it and whatnot. So we decided we're going to open a chapter within Ashes of Creation. The goal of our guild is to play the Game of Thrones, as you would say. However, being a community-based guild, the goal of the guild is to own a node, to control the node and the surrounding areas, and build up from there and have that little guild dynasty, if you will, while supporting people who don't necessarily like to play that type of game through guild events, both PvE in the more standard, more theme park style, if that is available within the game, as well as PvP objectives to further our goal forward. So that's what we're trying to accomplish. So with that in mind, Storms, I know you and we've been working on our guild website for a while, and the website has a lot of back-end features for our participation point system to allow us to track our members, allow them to progress within the guild itself in a more, I'm trying to think of the word here, a more interactive way. Instead of just, you were in the guild for a week or whatever, now you're a next rank or anything like that. We want guild members to feel like they're contributing to their advancement within a guild, just like you would any kind of advancement of quest lines or faction rep. Do you have a wish list of things that you would actually like to see in Ashes of Creation?
Oh, do I have a wish list? There's from a perspective of an integrator, what we're missing in ESO especially, we have a little bit in WoW, and I think Guild Wars has a little bit, is the integration with the outside world. We don't want somebody to play on the outside, that they want to go into the game and do their stuff, but there's a disconnect between what people are doing in the game and what we're going to do as a guild. There's a few ranks in there in the ones now. We're hoping Ashes of Creation will have more. I would like a lot of integration between outside databases and Ashes of Creation, especially with regards to player status, right, rank, all this interaction we have with the guild. There's no reason we have to be in the window in the game to do this stuff. They're hamstringing themselves by doing that. There's tools out there that would allow people to do their own stuff. If they'd integrate that into the game, it'd be a lot easier on everybody.
Right, right. Yeah, so like a forward-facing API. I know that Guild Wars
Mm-hmm.
2, their API is one of the strongest APIs I've seen out there for website creation. Like
Mm-hmm.
insanely detailed API for Guild Wars. WoW has a lot of interesting features built directly into their main website, which is something that, not a lot of other guilds have done. If you look at something like the WoW Armory and whatnot, and I'm not saying Ashes of Creation should indeed do that. I think that's kind of a waste of time of the website developers. But if you give tools to people, they will do the work. I mean,
That's right. Give them the tool to work it. Give them the tool to integrate it.
right.
One of the things that I just started playing Star Trek Online about 6 months ago, but they had a guild tool set up until like 2013. Of course, can't use it now, but was tremendous that you could get in, get all your ranks, get all your ships, get all your stuff. You get raid notifications. You know when it's got all this stuff is happening, but we can get an API from the game and get to it. We can get to those servers without having to open up a window. If you're going to manage your guild, you don't need to be in that window. You want to play a game, that's great, but to manage your guild, why do we have to do that? Why do we need to integrate spell checking to AOC so we can, I can mistype stuff?
True. I mean, that having that API to an outside website is something that would even connect you into your guild while away from the game, right? Like
that's it. Yeah, they get community feedback.
Yeah, like being able to actually see who's online from like having an online roster or even access of Guild Bank from a web API. I don't know how much control you would even be able to have, but even being able to view it would be something that would be really great to see. Because I know
just view.
Yeah, just view would be more than enough. Because here's with our participations database and stuff like that, our participation point system that we've developed. Being able to pull even the ranks of members and then being able to integrate it into the member page and go, oh, wow, so-and-so is rank B, but their participation points say they should be rank C for whatever reason. It's a good note of, hey, when I get home, time to promote that, that player.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Allowing us to get feedback from the game with, like I said, integration. That's the key to everything nowadays is integrated in. There's no reason to need to write it. Allow us to get into it and play with it, and we'll do all that for you. You just got to give us the APIs. You have them to have to, right?
Right.
So they just got to open them up.
And I'll tell you what, I know some people, the less tech savvy, may not like the idea of API related stuff, but I will say this: if API is presented, even those who maybe don't understand it as much, you'd be surprised the number of websites that will pop up who know how to utilize the API that you may be able to get onto. And like for your guild, such as I'm trying to think, Guild Launch and all those guild websites and stuff, if they have a strong API, that would be a selling feature for them, going, hey, we've completely integrated the Ashes of Creation API into our site. If you purchase, guild hosting through us, you can now have a site that connects all in. We do all the back end for you, so you don't have to.
Right.
And it's just drag and drop. People will do that. And I mean, I know Guild Launch and Guild Ox and all those hosting sites who are encouraging people who have no web development skills to come on and create their stuff would benefit from something like this. So even the less skilled would have options over time.
Right. No, absolutely. Right. So one of the interesting things, again, like spell checking, right? When they don't have an ESO, but we have to go in and we edit a little text pad for the message of the day.
Yep.
So why do I have to go in there? Right. I mean, this could be offered as a software as a service. It's a great way that you say not only for us, but for Ashes of Creation, right? At the very least, if you have a big set of folks hitting it big time, turn it into a software as a service. You got to pay to access the API.
Right. I mean, I'm trying to think. The Guild Auction House app that used to be a $2 a month service that you had to pay to use that API on your phone. They eventually removed that, but I'll tell you what, I paid for it for a while.
Yeah, pay for the support, man. You might as well. Yeah. It's a way that you're not going to make a mint off it, but it allows us to get in there and use it and support their changes, because they have to make changes. They have to make bug fixes. They have to do all that when they change things. So yeah, do some sort of charge for that. Allow us to get in there and do stuff to view only. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. And plus, it'd be a way for me to blow off, doing other work and projects, because I can just sit there and stare at my character and be like, what am I going to do?
Yeah. One of the interesting things about of that ability is, like, say for theocrafting, right? You can go in, you can see there's an ESO site, ESO-database.com. They have a little add-on that you put on your when you load up, it loads up, and when you save or when you exit, it writes information to the database. And then offline, you can see what your skills are, what your research levels are, all that sort of stuff, what furnishings you have, what furnishings you don't have. You can do all that stuff. But it's missing some stuff. It's missing, like, inventory. But with that ability, you can do theory crafting without having to be in the game. Because I can't always be in front of the PC to do theory crafting. So, if I'm driving or my wife is driving, I want to be able to do some theory crafting. It's sort of tough I'm bringing notepads and send myself emails what I want to do, but I got to track where the inventory is, what do I have, things like that. If we can get to it, that opens up more of a hook to a person, because they can get to it when they want to get to it, not just when it's most available to them.
Right. Absolutely. And I mean, that's something easy enough to do, especially with how integrated Discord is in our lives, our gaming lives now. I mean, if I'm able to look at even like my guild stash, what's in the guild bank, whatever, and I know, hey, we're gonna do a push of some kind. We're trying to advance a node, we're taking a castle, we're doing anything of that nature. I can look and go, hey, in order for us to accomplish X goal, we need so much of, I don't know, we'll just like copper or whatever the resource is that's needed. I can look and go, we don't have enough, and issue a Discord message going, hey, anyone in game right now, this is what we need. Can you accomplish this? Oh, go ahead.
No, absolutely. That'd be great.
Yeah, I mean, otherwise, then when I get in game, I have to do all those checks, and not something I can just check from a website, from anything like that. I'm doing it while I'm in game, not wasting, but splitting your time into, I'm now
your time, right,
doing this level of management when I would have it available outside.
Yeah, you're doing stuff that you could be doing somewhere else. You don't have to be in game. So when I'm in game, I'm in game. I'm doing what I want to do in game. If I'm doing management stuff, I don't need to be in the game. Better yet, what if we could see a map of what's going on around our node?
Yeah.
Right? Offline, right? It's not that important right now in ESO with like Cyrodiil that you see what's going on, because it all changes all the time. But in this type of game with Ashes, to be able to see what's going on around you with the nodes from the outside, you can start to find out what's going on. You can also set alerts, which would be awesome. I mean, how many times have I woken up to run into Vivek and do some IC in the morning, and there's no castles I can get to. I got to run from the gate to IC. Well, not that I'd want to wake up at the 4 morning and defend a keep, but why not? In
this type of game where sieging would be a lot more spaced out, that might be something where I'm waking up at 4 a.m. to do.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe I'll be in late today. Well,
yeah,
I'm half a PTO.
I'm feeling really sick today. yeah.
I got a case of the node envy. I gotta go.
Exactly. Yeah, I would definitely like that. Now, outside of the API, which would be for outside use, and especially with our website related stuff, what kind of features in game? Like, I'll tell you one thing that was kind of and jumping into ESO, because both you and I, we manage the ESO guild. One of the things that really sucked was guild bank management, because there was no permissions within a guild. Like, that's something that's so simple that you'd be surprised how few games actually have the granularity that is required for a lot of this. Like, because as we're getting ranks up and stuff like that, we want to be able to allow these rank guys be able to maybe grab from this, or so much of this, whatever. And then as they rank up in the guild, they're more trusted, they have more stuff, they're able to gain more resources.
Absolutely.
We want to be able to control that. There's a lot of games that don't let you do that. Like, a lot of games that don't, like ESO was, you either had it or you didn't.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and that's where they're going to start out to begin with, and they're going to spend time to do that. So if they can, with the Kickstarter funding that we put some additional guild tools in around the guild bank, that'll be phenomenal. Allow us also not only to put levels for items and gold, and where to separate the two, right? You can take out gold, you can't take out gold, you can take out this level item, whatever, but also be able to report on that, right? You can see who took what out, who took when out. ESO just caught up on some of that. It's been, what, 4 years?
Yeah.
So it would be nice for Ashes to have some of this stuff in game to get that out, so we can look and see, you know what, we have another thing coming up. We have a housing contest coming up. We have something coming up. We need to know what we have. We need to make sure we lock it down. So maybe we say, hey, for the next month, normally we allow you to take some stuff out, but for now, we need to keep this stuff so we're all set. We're good for the prize. So, things like that.
Right. And that's where, that outside API would also be super helpful, being able to view that log. Because I know within our guild, for Ashes, one of the things we do is gatherers and whatnot will be able to contribute materials into the guild bank to earn themselves participation points, which are normally reserved for guild events and stuff like that. And you'd be able to donate materials that are needed for a specific participation point value. Being able to export that or be able to see that from an outside site, or even just having that ability in general, is a must for us, so that we can figure out, player A donated 10 iron ore. Okay, we need to make sure we add the proper value of participation points to their ranking, so that they both have the spendable balance as well as the guild advancement balance. So yeah, it's funny you mentioned ESO because of how far behind that simple log is.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here's something that's kind of interesting, and I think it's kind of the lifeblood, and not very many games have done this recently. Guild taxes, being able to automatically take a portion of dropped gold and deposit it in the guild bank. I know Dark Age of Camelot had that.
That would be interesting.
They'd
have to sign up for it, right? But that would be interesting.
It wouldn't have to be a sign up thing. Like it was in DOAC, you were able to either turn it on, off, and then you could you couldn't set a percentage. All right, like that game, you couldn't set a percentage. It was just either on or off or whatever.
But did the player, by joining the guild, they had to agree to that, right? They have to say, "Yep, well, I'll allow you to take a little percentage."
No, by joining the guild, that was them acknowledge, because you could look at the menu and see if guild taxes were on. And if it was,
gotcha.
And I think later on they got a little bit more Care Bear about it, where it was like, why wouldn't you turn it on? Because what was it? We'll say it's 10%, but it didn't take 10%. It generated an extra 10%, that it threw in. So the player never really realized they were losing any money.
Oh, all right. Okay.
I'm not really sure I like that. I like the concept of being able to have guild taxes and maybe looking at it and going, this guild.
It's like an auction. It's like, the vendor, the auctioning with an ESO, right? You're going to give a percentage to the guild trader when you do it.
Right.
Part of a fiefdom is, I'm signing up for this guild, and I understand that part of my guild, mine goes to dues. That's just the way that goes.
Well, I mean,
I hadn't thought about it. That's a good idea.
Even in the real world, if you're part of a union,
it's not free.
If you're part of a union, you pay union dues so that they can. Well, the whole idea is so that they have the funds to assist the workers when if problems happen. You know what I mean? Like, you expect your guild to be able to, and it's something you do as a guild. We support our members. I know DCN, we're a very close group. Like we're a family at this point. So we're a little tighter than some guilds are because we've been together for so many years. But you still expect a guild to help you out, like you are contributing to the guild. And this is actually something I want to talk about later in the idea of contracts, because I've been playing Black Desert Online, and they actually have guild contracts, which are very interesting.
Really?
Yeah, we'll get into that. But you expect your guild to help you and vice versa. So it's like a job. You are doing something for the guild, which is helping the guild progress in one way or the other, however that progression is. And likewise, you expect the support, whether it be through logistical means, being able to have players to play with, that is them supporting you, especially in an MMO where multiplayer aspects are required or should be required, to find players of a like mind, or possibly gear, especially in a game where gear breaks like this one. You're not going to have one piece of gear and have it forever, because it will break and either need to be repaired or, completely replaced. Your guild has to help you, but how is it going to do that without a source of income, right? Like, I'm sorry, some games like Storms in our ESO guild, we have no income from the guild.
Nope.
Besides what you and me throw into the guild bank.
Yeah, that's our income.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah. So what we're throwing in is how we do our events, like our fun,
right?
Our fun little contests,
have like the raffles and the things like that, right? And they do that, and that's great. And they have auctions and they raise funds. Even things like that. That would be great if they had that built into Ashes of Creation, that ability to raise funds without having to do stuff. Like, for instance, like in the auctions, or in the what's the other one I saw? It was random draws, right? They have that built into the system, right? They're built into the game, where you can see in chat, here's a random throw. You don't have to go to a different website to watch the random throw.
Right.
And that being able to bring in this funding, because it's not free to have contests and to have all this sort of stuff.
Yeah. And outfitting your army and whatnot, your guildies to fight, it's not free. And
that's going to be different here.
The problem,
you get into that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Well, see, the big problem I see with like other ones, even with the raffles and stuff, we used to do raffles as well in ESO in order to earn a little bit of money so that we could do guild trading. We always had a pitifully small participation. And I'm not downplaying the people who participated, because they did amazing. But I'm sure it's the same with every guild, because I don't participate in a lot of the raffle drawings that like my other trade guilds and stuff do in ESO. I just don't do it. I do my sales. I meet my criteria. I'm good enough.
Right.
But getting that, that critical mass, that amount of people to contribute, is actually very, very difficult to do. Whereas being able to force a guild tax on people to be able to gather these funds is something that, hey, there you go. I mean, that is.
There's a lot of times coming up when they're gonna come up to be able to do something like that would be helpful.
Yeah.
Because if not, what do you do, right?
Right. Absolutely. No, I definitely agree. I know they mentioned guild halls as well at one point, and I know that's always kind of something that people jump into with housing and whatnot. Some games have guild halls, like Guild Wars 2 has guild halls, but no real housing. Guild halls, to me, like, what within a guild hall is any better than being outside? Like, personally, like, what kind of features within guild halls would you like to see? Like, I know for me, that should be where you initiate guild quests to do guild-related tasks and events and stuff like that, and maybe even some sort of guild bonus for starting from within there.
Honestly, I hadn't thought about that. To a guild hall, other being able to gather together, but we can do that all outside. We don't have to do that in a guild hall, right?
Right.
And I just don't. That's an interesting point. I hadn't thought about that one.
It's interesting, because what is the benefit of guild halls? I know they've mentioned them, but I mean, frankly, they talked about the tavern already offering buffs to you based on, this is your main hub of activity, right? This is where you're going. This is how you're going to start your adventures and your parties and whatnot. And there would be specific buffs you'd be able to get. I would assume you'd have to have some sort of specific guild buff to encourage people to congregate within a guild hall.
That's an interesting perspective, to have a buff based on starting in a guild hall. Plus, I mean, if you're going to think about it this way, so and I'm thinking this out loud, as we do preparing folks for a PvP event, right? And we need to say we have some new guild members that they want to fight, they want to go in, but they don't have the right stuff. Do we say, hey, just go to the guild bank? Or do we say, hey, you know what, let's gather the guild hall, we'll distribute everything here, and then we'll move on mass from there?
Right.
It depends how they're going to play it out. It'd be interesting to see how they're going to work with that.
Yeah, I honestly can't think of anything that would really make me want to go to a guild hall over just meeting at the closest, area to our objective, right?
Oh, absolutely. Unless the guild hall protects you from PvP at that time.
Well,
right?
I would imagine all guild halls, well, I shouldn't say all guild halls, but the ones that would serve as a guild hall, if they were within a city, most cities would be at least protected to some extent in terms of there's guards, like high-level NPC guards and stuff running around.
Well, yeah, so if you decide we're going to have a node attack, and we're going to attack a caravan or something, right? And if we decide we're going to meet out at whatever, the Bad Axe Hill over here, and we're going to gather there before we attack the caravan, what if word gets out and people start ganking those who start to gather before there's that many? Or they wait till those who show up late, right? Because inevitably that'll happen as well.
Right.
It's an interesting, I hadn't thought about that. That's an interesting way of looking at that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm just there's got to be a reason to actually even go to a guild hall in the first place, and that's kind of, I don't know what they would do to be able to, attract me to it. So, really curious on that one.
And then you bought one when you signed up, right? And you probably have one.
I don't know if maybe it is a guild hall. Do I have a guild hall?
I think that level does.
Maybe it does. Yeah.
We'll see.
Well, then I guess I have to find a reason to go there besides all the money I spent on it. I guess I don't know. Yeah. This one would be kind of interesting with a forward-facing I shouldn't say forward-facing, but an outside-facing API. The ability to change guild permissions would be really neat, like demoting and promoting. And I know we talked about viewing and being able to do all this stuff, but this is a wish list episode. The ability to either lock down the bank or open it up, even if that was the only thing, so maybe you couldn't demote or whatever, but from the outside being able to hit a button and lock down the bank from everyone outside of whatever you designate, whether it be the GM or officers, however you want to do that. Because what happens if while you're online, because I've actually had this happen in other games, like in early World of Warcraft when we were playing, like we had our guild bank open, right? And someone got peed off or whatever, or decided, hey, I'm going to another guild or whatnot. And they logged on real late at night. We just so happened to have a few people online and saw so-and-so logged on. And I don't know what made them look, but they started noticing huge stacks of materials disappearing from the guild bank. And I remember getting a text message at like 3 a.m. going, hey, so-and-so is online right now, and they're pulling a lot of stuff out of the guild bank. Yeah, like, are they supposed to be doing this? And so I'm waking up and I'm running downstairs to, find out what's going on and stop that, before I could. But being able to, from an outside facing API, just
lock it down.
Well, because that I can't think of a way of it being, quote unquote abused if someone got into your API. What's the worst they could do? Okay, they could lock down your bank
locked it down.
until a GM logged in who would be able to supersede that anyway.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I mean, what's the worst case that could happen? Someone logged, I'm going to lock down the guild bank, in which then the GM could go into the game,
April Fools,
unlock it, and then like disable the API feature. Like having the ability to go, okay, I can lock it down from an API, but if a GM logs in, they can flip that toggle going, yes, you can issue that API command, or you can't. In which case, then what are they going to do?
No, that's a great idea.
And, I was thinking even about, kicking guild members, but that's something that if someone hacked your website, they could just disband your guild or whatever. But, you know, maybe not having that feature, being able to promote and demote to at least the lowest level or whatever the case may be, except for certain ranks, which, you know, if
there's certain things you want in any security situation. You want to keep certain things on the outside and certain things on the inside, right? So but you separate all those out and locking the bank down until GM, that's not going to hurt anybody. Right.
Being able to even demote people who are not a GM or whatever, you know, like it's just like standard system administration. You can do everything except for like domain admins, enterprise admins. You can't touch those. You have to locally log in for those.
What makes I'm not being bad here, right? But what makes us assume that Ashes of Creation GUI is going to be more secure than the website? I mean, you don't know, right? So that's one of those things, is that trust you have in the not only the tool itself, but in how the tool is set up to ensure you have that. The ones that are most secure, you have the most security around.
Right. Absolutely. Makes sense. Yeah. I mean, that's just common practice that you know, you'd hope you'd be part of that.
But it's not. That's the problem.
Yeah, no,
right?
you're very true. Yeah.
It's not. One of the things you have to do when you have these developers come in, junior developers, is just say, hey, that's great, but did you think about the unhappy path? And that's, you know, the same thing here. You got to watch that security stuff. You got to watch these APIs, and I would hope they're going to do the same thing here. And I'm really looking forward to see what they do pull out.
Here's something that I know that's on my list that very few games don't do. An actual in-game calendar.
Oh, yeah.
Because very few, because you know, within, you know, our ESO guild, we have to put all of our stuff in the message of the day. But it'd be nice if you could just bring up a calendar and go, oh, it's IC night. And I mean, I know we kind of are going to funnel our people to our website because they have to claim participation to earn points and whatnot.
But what if they have an API where we don't have to? Right. That's right. It's great. You can have the website, and that's phenomenal. But if we could do it in, like, they just do something in game, we know they did it because it's part of the API, right? We knew they were in this raid. They were in this raid for this long. This was the person in the leading because they have the crown.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't think they're going that far, but that would be awesome to be able to track at that level.
Yeah, that would be neat to track at that level because, yeah, you're right. I mean, that would maybe put a little bit more background work for us because then we'd have to look at the log and people wouldn't go claim participation. But I guess that's kind of what we signed up for.
We could do a log, you know, browser real easily, right? So
yeah.
You have it do automatically. So I have the wish list too, but it gets really deep into the what can I set up automatically so I don't have to do it. That's what it turns into, right? It's laziness through efficiency.
Right. I just want to be able to sit here and do not. All that makes me think of is the episode of Futurama with the guy, the scientist who creates the robot to do all of his stuff for him.
Yep.
Robot, experience this ironic tragedy for me. No.
I just want to sit here and drink a beer. You let it take care of it.
I like that. No, it definitely would be fascinating to have that ability. But you know, like even just the simple functionality of being in game, realizing, oh, I can plan ahead because I can look and see all the events they're planning, and then
absolutely. Because even a game like Ashes, it's going to have its hardcore, it's going to have its semi-casual and casual, and even the semi-casual are going to want to say, you know what, I want to be there, but you know what, I got this other stuff on the calendar. I need to see what these match. A listing of dates doesn't always fit in your brain with a calendar.
Right. Yeah, no. And I mean, even something as simple as being able to click on the calendar and say, yeah, I plan on being, it gives the person leading the event at least somewhat of an that RSVP function gives you an idea of, okay, maybe we're actually going to, I'll have enough for this event, or maybe I won't, I'm going to have to find something else. Cause with Ashes not really being a theme park per se, it's going to be fun for us to, cater events that people want to go to. I don't think it'll be that difficult, but it's not going to be as straightforward as some of the theme park related stuff. But knowing that people are going to host some sort of event at any given time on a day is helpful. Because I could tell you from our website, I don't think, well, at least for us, I don't think I'm planning on a calendar. I know we have you will see a list of events and dates, but
Right.
and that's more than enough for us, because you're going to go in and say, yeah, I participated in the event to add your points. But that you're right. The calendar would just be helpful. Like, oh, I can see it. I went, and then they go and take care of that. That would be, be very nice. I've said a few things. Do you have any other wish list kind of related items?
A lot of the stuff that I'm looking at, though, is from a back end perspective.
That's fine.
Being able to run, again, mass mails, right? Instead of having to do one at a time, which you used to have to do in ESO before add-ons came on, you have to do an email one at a time, right? You didn't have a mass mail. You didn't have all this stuff that you can then, display everything about what's happening in a guild, who's doing what, when they're doing it. That whole management gets real tough if you can't see what people are doing. Right now in ESO, we can only see what people are doing when we actually say, hey, what are you doing? We don't know what they've done. And again, some other guilds say, hey, you know what, here's a guild participation thing. Come sign up. You did it. So then we'd have some idea. But to be able to watch the back end and to be able to see what's happening within our guild members, to me, that's where you're getting even deeper into that Game of Thrones, right? You're going to be able to see what they're doing. We know that, somebody's out scouting at 4 a.m. over, and some know what's going on. We know they've gone out where they've done that. They've reported back. All that type of stuff, to me, is much easier to manage if you give line of sight into what's happening.
Right.
And right now, we don't have it.
No, that's true. And actually, speaking of the line of sight, I know this is something they talked about and we kind of can play around with. What if, since you said about knowing where your guildies are, some games do this, but with the type of game this is, I kind of would love this to be an opt-in feature. The ability to, from maybe your guild hall perhaps, have a guild map, right? Where if a player turned on their, I don't know, make it a lore name, your I don't know, banner bearer or whatever.
Yeah.
You would ping on the map where you are, so you could see where all your guildies were within the map.
Awesome.
And you'd be able to see whether people had it on or off, so you could see if people were trying to be shady and be like, hey, Storms, why don't you have your ping on? I want to know where you're at. And you're like, oh,
where you're at, yeah.
I don't want to tell you where I'm at. And then I'm like, well, then you're doing something shady. But being able to, and tying to this, I think this is going to be really neat too. If you had a map, having it from within the guild hall itself, the ability to free draw on the map that would be visible to your guildies. Like, I remember there was an add-on at one point that it was a raid add-on that literally was like MS Paint in WoW. Where
that would be phenomenal.
It brought up essentially an MS Paint window that projected to everyone in your group, and you could draw on it, so you could like, oh, here's the boss, and
that would be great.
Being able to control something like that and coordinate from like a map location, like if you really want to tie someone into a location, you could do that with a guild hall map, which would then allow you to, even if it was only while they were in the guild hall, you could mark on your map where you want people to go. So when they go out, they would still see your mark. So you're like, okay, Storms, your squad's going to go up here on this hill, and you can draw the line where you're going.
And they see it on their map as they go. This is where I'm going. This is, that's phenomenal.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I would love to see that kind of guild tool, because that would be something where you could coordinate those things, especially in terms of during sieges and whatnot, and coordinating on that level would be very, very neat to see.
Yeah, absolutely. To be able to do that, even if you can't see, you just can't see the enemy, right? But you can see yourself. You can say, hey, you know what? You guys, you're going to miss it if you don't turn left now, right? You got to go in. You got to get this figured out. That whole ability would be just tremendous to be able to facilitate an attack or a caravan or something. If we want to surround something, hey, you know what? You're not going to be able to fork them in if you don't do this,
Right.
That would be interesting.
I know another thing that I would really be excited about, and this could also be tied to guild halls, would be having guild vendors or guild craftsmen, which would be tied to whatever your skill is as a crafter. So like, In ESO, for instance, I had a very high skilled crafter at one point. I'm like 9 of 9 in all the crafting. I had quite a bit of the motifs and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We were not really sure how the crafting system is going to work in this game, but let's say that my character, I would be able to copy his skills and give it to an NPC, like a guild crafter. And this crafter, what I could do from within the guild bank is I would be allowed to, I'm trying to think of the word, my goodness, and I'm thinking about it in VMware terms, where it claims the space even when it doesn't need it. Oh, what is that? Oh, anyway, you could claim materials. Like, okay, I want my guy to be able to craft X amount of items, right? So as from a guild membership point of view, you could actually have a guild for guild permissions for a guild crafter, which you didn't actually need to be online. You could actually go to an NPC and go, Storms, you are a rank 3. You are allowed to craft, these particular items, right? And you're allowed to have one per week or whatever however you want to limit it up. And they would be able to go to that person. They would be able to pull up a menu, which is, it's an NPC in the guild hall, and say, yes, right. I want, I see that, Aggelos has allowed me to have one steel greatsword. I'm allowed to, that as part of my guild dues, I'm allowed to craft that. In which then, if that was also in a log, we would be able to look and go, Storms crafted one steel greatsword. That is, we're going to take away so much of our participation points as cost of that. But we'd be able to see, and they would be able to, initiate the crafter to make this, and they would make it, and it would take the materials out of the guild bank because it would have already claimed those. Like, you'd be able to say, you're holding 500 ingots of ore, and he would be able to fulfill orders based on that, until his supplies ran dry. And you would be able to tie that
to the guild level. I've seen that at the person level, right? Where they're like, it's like in Star Trek Online, they have the duty officers, they have stuff going on after when you're not on, right? They're doing their thing, they're doing their research, they're doing whatever, right? Same thing in ESO with the research. But from that guild perspective, that's an interesting idea.
Yeah.
To have a guild crafter.
Yeah. This would just be even a way of allowing you to, I don't know, like a voucher type system that you'd be able to divvy out your resources based on, guild permissions. Like, instead of being able to have someone go in and just take 10 ingots to make a great sword, being able to get a guild crafter NPC to make you one from the ingots that are there. That way it's not like, they grabbed 10 ingots, they only needed 8, and they pocketed the extra 2. It would be, here's the rest.
Think about when we're coming up to a caravan, say, right? And we're going to, or even an attack on it, we're going to want to be able to say, you got to be stacked up. This is what we want you guys to have. This is what you to have. And they need to be able to do that. And being able to do that from within the guild crafter, that's a really good idea.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I really like that as an idea of just something that would be neat to see from the guild management perspective, because you would be able then to grant permissions to materials and items without so much of saying, you can just take those ingots and who knows what you're going to do with them. You would be dedicating them to a purpose, and that you could only fulfill that purpose. You couldn't take them and, I don't know, do something that doesn't really help the guild. Say you need iron to make weapons and armor, right? But someone's like, but I really want that, that whatever, I don't know, new steel door handles on my house or whatever, which don't help the guild. Instead, they just
it's not gonna help
your decorating skills. Like, you wanted those materials to go to a war effort. Instead, someone took them and personally messed with their housing items or whatever the case may be, and that's not necessarily what you wanted your guild funds to go towards. So
no, that's a good idea.
Type of voucher system.
They gotta make this faster. They got to get this game going.
Right.
I want to see what they're going to have.
And I do have a lot of hopes, and I know some people would be. I'm really curious to see what some others say is kind of like on their wish list, because I know Steven Sharif has said that he wants to have one of these are his words, that this game is going to have one of the most robust guild systems
That would be awesome.
In MMO, in the MMO genre. With that being said, what is that going to entitle? Like what, or entail, not entitle, entail. Like what is that going to entail? I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and these are just some things that I know are on my wish list that I would love to see accomplished.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And we want to hear from everybody else what they think.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I'm sure we miss some stuff.
Oh yeah, we're thinking on like the back end related stuff. I know, like just things that would help our guild out, with our website, and that we could tie into it to make it easier on us. But even in game, there's a lot of stuff that maybe some smaller guilds and whatnot think, hey, this is kind of important to me. I want to be able to see this or be able to do these kinds of things.
Absolutely.
Even something as simple, and I know it's kind of funny, but encouraging your players to group together. I know WoW did this. I think EverQuest 2 did this, where they encourage your group to run together. And whenever so many people ran a dungeon together, it would donate money into the guild bank. It was a guild quest that could be completed weekly. And I mean, I know that it seems like, what, you're a guild, why should people, have to be encouraged to play together? I agree, they shouldn't. But modern games have made us go, oh, it's just easier to do it solo or whatever, that, you do kind of have to entice people, or at least until you break them out of that mindset, which unfortunately is going to take a while.
Absolutely will. If it ever does. You don't know, right? It may be the state of things going forward. So
right, absolutely. So I think that's pretty much all I really had on my list right now. We may have to revisit this topic as more ideas have come in. I know we'll talk about it some more, and especially when they start confirming what guild tools will be available, we'll want to discuss those as well. So I guess, do you have anything else you want to say before we kind of wrap this one up?
For this one, no. I think we got a good spot here. This is good ideas. But again, I want to hear from everybody else to chime in, right? Send us something about what do you want to see, because there's so much stuff that could be here for guilds. From the other side of management, what do you want as a guildee? What do you want?
Yeah, guildee. That is a good one. And actually, I forgot about this, but this is kind of this. I'll bring this up as well because this is fun. So I remember I said BDO has guild contracts, right?
You said that. Yep.
Yeah. This is actually a way that your member gets paid for being in your guild. When they sign a contract, they have these contracts that when, I would present you, and from a lore perspective, they give you a little paper with a wax seal. It's actually kind of neat. And it says, so-and-so is joining Hands of Fate. As part of this, you will be paid X amount of monetary pieces every day for minimum of 30 days. Or you can actually extend the contract or whatever.
Right.
But it's actually a dated contract. And what's neat is if you are kicked out, or not kicked out, if you're kicked out, the guild is responsible to pay you the rest of your contract money, or a certain number. It's actually it's neat. And likewise, if you leave, you are required to pay that guild the amount of money that, plus some, it was 3 times your rate or whatever. And at the end of the contract, it actually comes back up for renewal where, after 30 days, if that's what you said, after 30 days, it goes, okay, are we going to renew this contract, and for how long? To prevent people leaving or not. And it wasn't so much and it required people to log in to get the money, right? That was just something that's really neat as a guild tool. It was, you signed in, you got some guild money from the guild coffers, and you participated in raising the guild level or whatever the case may be.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah, from a guildie perspective, that was interesting. But it's just funny that if you were kicked out before your time was over, the guild was responsible for paying you up to 3 times whatever your contract rate was. And if you leave, it would subtract 3 times the amount of gold from you that your contract was. So you couldn't just like join and leave. There was, that early severance, that early termination
that's really
cost.
Cool. That's cool.
Yeah, I thought it was neat. Anyway, we've reached the end of this episode. Of course, we have our own guild, which I think we have our logo in the bottom here, for Ashes of Creation. If you are interested in joining the Dungeon Crawler Network as we adventure into Vera and Ashes of Creation, you can head on over to our website, dungeoncrawlernetwork.com, and there is a guild tab location where, actually, I think there's a button on the front that says you can submit an application. We will review that, get to you, talk to you a little bit about, what the guild is, and, join us for the adventure. That website is going to change soon. Excuse me, because Dungeon Crawler Network is where we host all of our podcasts, and I know we decided we were going to separate those two out so that we'd have our guild site on one thing and our podcast on the other, so they don't mix. So right now, everything is going to be hosted off Dungeon Crawler Network until pretty much we say otherwise. Because until it's not, yeah. Those who've already signed up, just as a little bit of a note, you won't have to re-sign up. I think Storms, you and I said we're going to be able to transfer people over, and if not, I'll manually do it if I have to.
No, we can transfer everybody, but Sean and you. But we're good.
Yeah, Sean and you're going to have to. Just kidding, Sean. So anyone who's already signed up and accepted, this isn't going to really affect you until the launch of the game. But anyone, once the new site's up, that's where you'll go. Also, when the game launches, this includes alpha testing, Alpha 1, Alpha 2. That's where you'll go to claim participation for these, for the guild. We will be doing events within Alpha 1 and Alpha 2 as a way of guild testing to encourage people to play together, to test the game together, and provide feedback to Intrepid. So if you're a part of us and you have access to either Alpha 1 or 2, definitely let us know in the Hands of Fate Discord channel that we have for all registered guildies, because that's something that we definitely want to encourage. Yeah, I think that's about it, huh? Did I miss anything?
Nope, I think you got it all.
All right, excellent. So definitely, if you're looking for a family, because that's what we are. DCN is a family first and foremost. We take care of our members. We love all of our members, unless you're Sean. No, I'm just kidding. I love Sean. I'm giving him a hard time because he was on the show last week. But yeah, if you're looking for a guild in which to jump into Ashes of Creation, I know I'm biased, but we have the best community out there. Just saying. We really do. No. So you definitely check that out. Check out our site. Join our community Discord, even if you're not joining our guild, because we do encourage people from all over. And we actually have a bunch of people from all over the Ashes of Creation community in our Discord chatting and just getting to know us as a group of people. So definitely consider doing that at the very least. We'd love to hear from you. All right, Storms, where can people find you?
So I can be found at Stormzlord at twitter.com.
Okay.
More places sooner or later, but for now there.
Okay. All right, cool. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Aggelos, AGGELOS_WOF. Definitely follow everything we do, dungeoncrawlernetwork.com, where you can find links to all of our social media, our Facebook page, our YouTube, which is youtube.com/dungeoncrawlernetwork, and twitch.tv/dungeoncrawlernetwork, which I encourage you to go out and follow, because as the NDA drops for Ashes of Creation, we will be streaming there, as well as giving away stuff as per the official content creator package. So definitely check that out. And we look forward to interacting with you guys as the game progresses into further development and launch, as well as once the game launches. So we hope you enjoyed this episode of From the Ashes, and we will see you next time. See you later.
Later.